Hey, it's Captain Bubblebeard here, and we're back. And today I thought we'd look at knee injury. So after doing a lot of research when it came to the armbar video, I found that when it comes to injuries, the knee is the most common injury that occurs. So the common joint that's most injured, and in particular it's a meniscus that is most commonly injured. So I thought today we'd break it down, look at signs and symptoms, treatment, and what kind of, if you need surgery, conservative, and we'll go from there. So what is the meniscus? So in a nutshell, the meniscus lays in between the knee joints. So we got the femur up top, then we got the tibia, and then we got fibula, but then we got medial meniscus here, and then we got lateral meniscus. So it acts as a bit of a shock absorber between the joint as well. It helps to distribute weight. It also helps to reduce friction with the bone. It also helps to improve joint stability and smooth movement of the joint. So that's kind of what that knee joint, what that meniscus does in that knee joint. So it has a very strong, has a very big function of that knee joint. And this is what the meniscus looks like from a top-down approach. So we got the lateral meniscus, which is a bit more of an O shape, and then we got the medial meniscus, which is a bit more of a C shape. So you can see there's a bit of a thing called red zone. So what that is on that lateral aspect of each meniscus, it has blood supply. So what that actually means is it can heal on its own. And then what we've got in the inside portion is what we call the white zone. So it means it's a bit trickier for it to heal. So this will kind of allude to what happens when it comes to treatment. But that's what the meniscus is from a top-down approach. So how does the meniscus get injured? So typically this occurs through a torsion or base injury. So that kind of force, as well. It goes through a twisting based mechanism. So when that knee twists. And usually the medial meniscus is damaged the most, and more often than not than the lateral meniscus. It's just how it is, just the anatomy of the knee and the body, and I don't want to delve into that, so we don't want to get this video too nerdy. There's two types of meniscal base injury. So we got number one, which is the chronic, just starting off with this because it's least likely when it comes to jiu-jitsu, but it's when you get like minute tears, small tears over time, and then eventually the joint just kind of builds up and it just becomes osteoporotic and it becomes filled with arthritis. Typically happens with most people, as it just happens with the human body. And then we got the other one, which is most common in jiu-jitsu, is it's the acute type injuries when it comes to twisting is generally the biggest mechanism. Otherwise there's contact forces, where you get blunt force trauma to the side of the knee, or it can be medial or lateral, and that will also possibly tear that meniscus. But when it comes to jiu-jitsu, typically you will tear it with pivoting motions and twisting motions, whether that be takedowns, being in an awkward position, escapes, yada yada yada. It can just happen anywhere. Signs and symptoms. So there's multiple signs and symptoms. So consult your doctors, your physio, your physical therapist, and your specialist if you've got one. But usually the main signs and symptoms, number one, pain, pretty acute. So you're going to get inflammation there, which will be swelling as well, which is number two. You'll get swelling into the joint. And these are quite common with an acute based injury. As well, with swelling, you might catch a loss of range of motion, because imagine that knee is in a balloon full of water. It's just going to take some time for that swelling to go, and then once that swelling goes, your range of motion can come back. Another symptom that we commonly ask is does that knee lock? So what I mean by that is when you bend it, does it just kind of get stuck? If that is the case, that's something that we want to look at as well. And then as well, what we're wanting to see is if it is getting stuck as well, is it completely locking? So when does it require physical force to unstick it as well? So that's quite a common, with the more higher grade meniscal tears. As well, does the knee give way? That's another common one that can happen. So give way, so it's a true give way. So that knee just completely is unstable and it just collapses underneath you. There's a false give way where you're just weak in those quad muscles, where you just need to build up that eccentric strength. But that is what your physio or physical therapist will need to determine. Clicking is another one. I'm less worried about that as a physio, but because clicking can occur from multiple different aspects, so we just want to see where that clicking is coming. And then pain in movement, so whether that be squats, walking, moving the knee, kneeling, we just want to know what movements is causing that pain as well. So if a meniscal tear is suspected, usually your physio, your doctor, your specialist will get an MRI, and the MRI will determine what type of tears you've got. So there's 6 tears in general, so they go by location and what has happened with that meniscus and what is doing. So you've got radial tear, so if that's a meniscus, C-shape, so radial tear is along this aspect there. And then you've got longitudinal tear, so it's along this kind of axis there, and you got flat tear, which is that way and then up, and then the meniscus is flapping up into space. So they're the 3 most common ones, and when it comes to the flat tear and radial tear, they're the ones that most likely will require meniscectomy, while the longitudinal tears can be repaired, and that's something we'll talk a bit more in treatment, which is probably next. So treatment now. So first things first, always aim never to have surgery. That's the first off. I always recommend that with all my patients, everyone in general. Surgery is always the last option, not the first option. Always try conservative. Trust your doctor, your specialist, your physical therapist, your physio, whoever your medical team is, trust in their judgment. But it's just a bit tricky when it comes to that. So if the knee is it's just got swelling, it's painful, loss of range, but there's no clicking, locking, or giving way, that has a pretty good aspect of and possibility of it recovering quite well. So conservative rehab is all you need. So that treatment can be anywhere between 6 to 12 weeks, could be shorter, but that's to be expected time frame. And then if there is clicking, locking, giving way, and amongst other symptoms, your specialist or your doctor, your physio might get that MRI, and it may require surgery. So trust your opinions of your doctors on that one. So surgery. So with meniscus, there's usually 2 courses of action when it comes to surgery. Your first one is meniscal repair. So as I mentioned above, you can even still see it in the whiteboard up there, is if it's in that red zone and you've got a longitudinal tear, so along this line, it can actually be sutured back together. So what they'll do is they'll knit it back together and it can heal. So that is a very, very good thing. So what that means is you haven't lost any meniscus. So the knee joint is still intact, it's still perfect, it can still full function, and it reduces likelihood of osteoarthritis in the future. So it's got a lot of benefits by not removing any cartilage. But then we've got radial tears, which is along this way, where that is where things can get a bit tricky. And just coming back to that meniscal repair, bad news, I guess, from a BJJ point of view, rehab will take around 3 to 6 months. There's no way of getting that any quicker. It's just that's how long healing will take to take its place. It's unfortunate, but I would always recommend that regardless of if you're training in jiu-jitsu or not. It doesn't change my opinion on it. And then we've got, coming back to it, we're going back to partial meniscectomy. So if you've got that radial tear and it's gone this way, or the flap tear where it's gone up that way, so what they'll do is they'll do an arthroscope. So they'll go in and they'll just clean it out. They'll just shave all the torn cartilage because it won't be able to be healed. So if it is in that white zone, it's typically just going to be, it doesn't matter if it's a longitudinal tear too, if it is symptomatic, they'll just go in and shave it. So is that a good thing? Yes. The recovery wise, it's better. You're not going to be in pain, so it's got good aspects. So it is pain-free. I've personally had one of these, so I've got maybe 40%, maybe 50% of meniscus left in my knee, so I've lost 50 to 60, easy math. I've lost a lot of that, unfortunately, so that's just how it is, unfortunate. But what it does is, because you have removed that meniscus, it increases your likelihood of osteoarthritis, arthritis, and just damage in that joint by 2 to 5 load. That's how high it can go. And removal of meniscus can increase double to triple your body weight down into that knee. Is it a good thing? There is no good or bad. It is what it is. What this means is in your late 50s and 60s, a replacement or a resurfacing will need to be done to preserve that knee joint. So unfortunately, that damage is permanent, and it can have long-term effects, but the reality is we only live once. So but listen to your doctors and your specialists and your physio, your physical therapist, depending on what type of the world, it's the same thing. Listen to what their opinions are, because they're the ones who've been in this industry for a while. So I'm not your physio, so So, you know, trust in their judgment there. So that's kind of how that meniscus is treated. And, you know, with the studies that I was reading, it's incidences are very, very high with meniscal tears. So it's just something that is quite interesting. And I'm more than happy to make a video as well about, you know, my journey with the meniscal tear as well. And then we can talk about other injuries. So stay happy, stay beautiful, look after yourselves, and we'll catch everyone in the next video. Peace.